And as that turns on, I will officially welcome everybody to our Wednesday variety class. It's great to see everybody again. And it's been, I think, about a month since I taught this class the last time. I know you guys have had Joni, you've had Joe Fontesha, you've had Jason, and we've just got so many great educators in our company that it's a real treat not only for us, but hopefully for you guys as well, because we're always learning too as employees. And we hope that you guys are getting a lot out of these classes because we sure have a lot of fun putting them on and keeping the music going, keeping the education going, even during some pretty crazy times elsewhere. So what I'm going to do for you today, the last time I taught this class, I had a sheet that I had, I think that you guys had gotten emailed out that was called the Top 10 Tips and Tricks. And for this class, we got through 5 out of the 10. So if you missed that class, I'll just do a really quick refresher on what we talked about. We did the glissando, and that's kind of that keyboard sweep, where you run your hand along the keys there. We talked about using your drum variation and alter style. And remember that drum variation is the one that just changes the drummer. Alter style is the one that changes potentially everything in the band, including the drummer. We talked about changing melody sounds, which is just using multiple melody sounds for each song. We talked about the auto start-stop and the regular start-stop feature, and that's a big window feature for those of you who remember that. And then we also talked about playing along with some of the intros and endings. So again, that's just a recap of what we talked about last time. I know it's been a month, but I don't want to spend too much time covering that again, and I know there's probably some folks here who weren't on that class. And if you have any questions on any of those things, the glissando, drum variation, alter style, how to change melody sounds, auto start-stop or regular start-stop, or playing along with an intro and ending, make sure that you get in touch with your local staff members, because whether you can come to the store for a one-on-one in person, which is always nice, or if you just want to do it on Zoom, we have both capabilities to help you out in the store or just online if you'd prefer to learn from your home. So if you have any questions about any of those things that I talked about last time, make sure you get in touch with your local staff. Having said all that, I want to get going with the other 5 out of my top 10 tips to sound like a pro here. So the first one I'm going to talk about today, I think I'm going to go with the expression pedal. This is kind of a quick one, but this is something that almost everybody's going to have. There are just a select few instruments that don't have this feature. The Easy One, the Discovery, and maybe a couple of the other ones, the LC1 maybe. But if you have one of those pedals, and that's one of those ones that goes back and forth like that controls your volume, that's the expression pedal. Now there are things on either side of it, right? You have those little foot switches, one on the left, one on the right. We're not talking about the foot switches, I'm talking about the actual volume control. What a lot of people like to do is kind of that set it and forget it mentality, right? Where you get it at a certain volume and you think, that's a pretty good volume, I'm not going to disturb the neighbors, but I can still hear myself and I'm just not going to change it. And if that's you, that's fine, because that's a perfectly good way to play. But if you want to add a little bit of kind of expression to your playing, that's why they call it the expression pedal, a little bit of emotion in your playing. One of the ways that you can do it is by having your right foot on that pedal while you're playing. Now, if you picture it like a gas pedal, hopefully you figured this out already, but just as a reminder, if you floor the gas pedal, that's what's going to increase the volume. If you decrease it like this, and the pedal's more vertical, then that's going to make the instrument quieter. And that controls all of the volume for everything that's going on, whether it's your melody sound, your chord, the backing band, the golden harp, whatever's coming out of the instrument, all the sound is controlled by that expression pedal. Okay, so I'm going to switch my camera here, and I'm just going to give you a quick little demonstration of how using this expression pedal can make an arrangement go from good to great. And what I'm going to play for you is just a little snippet of Sound of Music. I'm going to start in the middle here. And I'm just going to play with the easy button. So I'm going to put on my my D-Bank. That's going to be using some orchestral sounds, which if you don't know what that is, that's okay. It's going to be using some strings and horns with just the easy button. And just listen to, hopefully this will come across okay on Zoom. Sometimes the sound gets a little wonky, but hopefully you can hear how the volume is going to fluctuate and especially at the end. And I'm going to have a really cool thing I can show you on that last note. But here we go, a little bit of Sound of Music. So hopefully that came through okay for everybody. But what I want you to hear is that fluctuation in the volume. And it's really not that hard to do once you get your right foot in the habit of going a little bit louder, a little bit softer. And the good news is there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's wherever you want to put the emphasis on the softer volume or on the louder volume. And I told you I'd have a little kind of extra treat for you here at the end. If you heard that at the very end, this is like a Lowry concert artist trick, and a lot of them do this. A lot of theater organists do this. A lot of actual orchestras do this. And there's a term for it, which I'll tell you in a second. But what happens is on your very last note, you hit the volume really loud, but then immediately back off so it's quiet. And then so you put the volume pedal floor, the expression pedal, all the way down, but then immediately take it back up, and then slowly push it back down to a loud volume. Let me show you a couple times how that sounds. So that's just for the last note of your song. You hit it really loud real quick, and then you immediately back off, and then slowly get loud again, and then you let off at the end. Now, this is an extra gold star question. Does anybody know what doing that is called? There's an official term for it, and it's hard to pronounce. Does anybody know what that term is? Go ahead and raise your hand if you happen to know that. If you were a piano player or an organist, you might recognize this term. I don't see anybody jumping at that. That's not surprising. Just for fun, though, in case you see it on Jeopardy or something, it's called a sforzando. Sforzando. It's gosh, I don't know if I could spell it. S-F-O-R-Z-A-N-D-O, I think.
A silent Q in there too.
Yeah, I think there is a silent Q. Anyway, it's a really cool way to end your song because you get that really loud pop there, but then it backs off real quiet and then slowly on the expression pedal until it's loud again, and then you let off. It's a real good finisher for the song. Okay, so that's how to use your expression pedal. And if you don't want to do it real elaborate like that, just louder and softer whenever you feel like it. You know, again, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just however you feel like playing the song. Okay, next one's a real fun one here. I love this. And the next one I'm going to talk about here are using your sound effects. So I'm on the Legend here, the Lowry Legend. This is the A4000. I have two sound effects buttons right here. Typically, they're going to be green buttons. Now, they did change that on the E series. So if you have a Marquee, Grand Marquee, or Aria, your sound effects buttons, I believe, are gray. but they'll still be over in this kind of general range here on the right side. And you may have as many as four or more. So on this one, I have two. Now, what the sound effects are going to do are going to change depending on how you have it set up. Oh yeah, Myra put that in the. So I think I did spell that right. I was pretty close. Sforzando. If you ever happen to get regular fully notated music, you might see it abbreviated as SFZ in the music. SFZ means Sforzando. Thanks, Myra. So back to our sound effects here. So the way that the instrument's set up is going to put different sort of sound effects in your 1 and 2 here, or 1, 2, 3, and 4, depending on what you have. What I have on here right now, if I touch sound effects number 1, is called a cymbal roll. Now, if you've ever seen somebody in an orchestra play like this on the cymbal, like that, they're doing a cymbal roll, and that's exactly what it sounds like. And then on this one, I have a cymbal crash. Okay, so that's what it put in based on how I had it set up. But let's have some fun with it. Let's say I was going to put on a style called classic Western. Now this style, you might recognize the intro. So what might go well with that? Well, we have the horse and we have the gunshot. So when you're playing your song, you could hit, and that goes with the song. I didn't have to set that up, right? That came in automatically. Right? Now you have many, many, many different options of what you can put in your sound effects, but it will set it up with something that goes with whatever you're playing. Another option is like the train. Everybody uses the train, right? Everyone knows this one, right? All right. And of course, if you do your intro, you actually get the train. But what it put here automatically, and again, I didn't set anything up for this. I just touched the train. What I have here is the train and the train bell. Okay, so you can play around with some of these, and again, different styles are going to put on different things. Some of them will go back to that cymbal roll and the crash. Some of them will be something more signature. If I put on, I believe if I put on Hawaiian, I get that ocean wave sound. It's a little soft, but hopefully you can hear that. And then I get the seagulls. Now, I have to admit, I used to think using sound effects was a little cheesy, but then I realized that it's such a cool thing to add to your arrangements that's really not available on almost any other instrument. I mean, can you guys picture going to see somebody play a classical piano concert and they're playing a beautiful piece, and then all of a sudden you hear seagulls? You'd be looking up at the ceiling, right? But on your instrument, if you have that capability, again, it's going to be over on the right side of your instrument. You can either use the built-in stuff, and again, for certain styles, like I showed you, that it'll come on automatically with stuff that makes sense for that particular style of music. Others will just be a little bit more generic. But here's the good news. You can change what is in your sound effects. So I'll do what you can do here is go in. Now, right now I have that seashore, right? But if I were to hold that sound effects number 1 here and then scroll, I can change what's in there. So check this out. Right, so those are just a few examples, but all I did was I held that down and then I scrolled using the scroll button right by the screen to put in different sound effects. Now, if you're somebody who goes and saves your arrangements, like you save to A1, A2, A3, it will save your sound effects. So I used to do an arrangement of Star Wars. And for you Bradenton folks, you may remember we did this a few years back. We did the theme from Star Wars, and we put sound effects in our buttons here, and we actually put sound effects in the touch bar, sound effects in the pedals. Now, I don't have enough time to show you all that stuff today, but we put sound effects all over the place, and we did stuff like lasers and the starship going and the gunshots and the planes whizzing by, and we had this really cool arrangement, and we hadn't even started the song. This was all just sound effects before we started the tune. And so using stuff like that can be really, really fun. And the easiest way to do it to get started, if you haven't used sound effects before, is just to touch one of the buttons. If you're using a style like the train or Aloha or Classic Western or many of the other ones, they'll have the stuff programmed for you already, just like your rhythm presets or your style setups. It's already built in, ready to go. And all you have to do is just touch it and see what's in there. There's the laughter. And there's my seagulls. Okay, and you can change it to whatever you like. So, does anybody have any questions so far, either on the sound effects or the expression pedal stuff? Feel free to use that raise hand feature if you like. Looks like we got a question from Karen. Hi, Karen. You may have to click unmute
Hi.
there.
Yeah, I just did. So when you were talking about your Star Trek that you did, you said you had sound effects everywhere. So did you assign different sound effects to the touch bar versus the pedal versus, or
Yep,
was it
I did.
themed? So you can
Yep.
assign different sound effects to different functions.
Yeah, I'll give you the quick Cliff's Notes version. Again, I could make a whole workshop just out of that one feature. But what you can do is, oops, I want to get my other camera here. If you go into your big window to feature page 9, you'll see 3 options for touch bar, foot switches, and pedals. And then when you go in there, you can choose either one, and then just scroll to sound effects, and then you just have to go to whatever you want. So like right now on the touch bar, while I'm scrolling here, I will tell you that there are 2 groups of sound effects, and they're listed alphabetically. One is a group of all percussion sounds. Okay, so we have like the congas, we have cowbell, we have cymbals, we have all this stuff. It's all percussion. So if you scroll past that, then you get to stuff like thunder and rain. Okay, if you keep scrolling, oh, this is one of the fun ones. Extra scary. Ooh. Ooh. So that's great for Jurassic Park or Beauty and the Beast or anything like that. And so once you keep scrolling, you can just set it up for whatever you want, trolley bell or whatever. And so for each one of those options, you can put that in the touch bar. If you have 2 touch bars, you can have 2 sounds. Right and left. You can put it on your natural and black pedals, and you can put it on the foot switches. In addition to whatever sound effects buttons you have there. So you got lots of options there. But thanks. That was a great question. Julia, did you have a question for us? Might have to click unmute there to hear yourself.
We have a Rialto, and there don't appear to be any buttons there, but I have scrolled on the feature list and found sound effects. So do I just save it to touch bar or pedals or something?
Yeah. I like to use it on the pedals because, especially for hobby players, typically you're not playing the pedals. So I'd rather use them for a function, rather use them for something that will actually get used, like sound effects.
Okay.
Yep, but you can do the touch bar, the foot switches, or the pedals if you don't have the actual buttons there.
And will that override whatever the built-in sound effects are?
Well, the built-in stuff for that will actually not even be sound effects. It'll be like fill in or glide. Or on the pedals, it'll actually just be bass notes.
Okay.
But then whatever you save it to will be saved that way.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
All right, you're very welcome. All right, looks like Judith. Judith, do you have a question? Go ahead and click unmute. Judith, did you have a question? I had your hand raised.
Okay, I had to unmute myself. What sound effects can I access on my journey?
On the journey, I don't believe there are sound effects on the journey.
Okay.
Now, you do have some stuff, like if you use the intro for the train, you'll still hear the train whistle. But the journey does not, to my knowledge, have any sound effects that you can actually program
Okay.
externally.
That's what I wondered.
All
Okay.
right. Good question. Thank you. And Gail, did you have a question?
Yes, Brian. Hi.
Hi, Gail.
Carlo likes to use sound effects, but he wants to find out when he puts on a sound effect, he said it's drowned out by the music, and he wonders how you can make the sound effects louder if it's possible.
So again, this could be a class in and of itself, but the Cliff's Notes answer is you go to feature, so go to your menu. On the very first page, it'll say levels and balance. And then what you can do, there are going to be a bunch of different options. And what you can do is, I don't think that there's an actual way to raise the volume of the sound effects, but what you can do is slightly lower the volume of the other things that might be too loud. So for example, if you find that the Orchestra Plus is too loud, you can lower that. Or if you find that the bass is too loud, you can do that actually right on the panel there. But as far as I know, there's no way to raise the volume of the sound effects.
It's slow.
Oh,
It's slow.
okay.
Now,
Yeah,
on the E series, it could be different. You know, we
we have an aria.
Yeah, I know. It is possible that on the E series they changed that, and that would include the aria as well. But it's been a while since I've been in front of one, so
No, it's the same on there.
is it the same, Sean? Yeah, so Sean's saying it's the same. So what you'd have to do is just go ahead and lower some of the other volumes so that you can hear the sound effects a little bit better.
Okay. Okay, thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Gail. Looks like Nancy had a question in the chat. After assigning sound effects to pedals, will they stay even if you shut off the organ? They will not stay. Oh, and Sean responded to you too there. So, but yeah, they will not stay if you shut off the organ. And in fact, depending on how your organ is set up, they may even not stay if you go to another preset. So if you get something that you like, I'd recommend saving it, like to A1 or wherever you like to save your presets, and then you'll be guaranteed that it'll stay there. All righty. Great questions. Sorry about that. So it doesn't look like we have any more questions. I'm going to move on to our next thing here. So far we've done the expression pedal, we've done sound effects. So the next one I wanted to do is one that everybody should have on their instrument. And by that, I mean you have keys. So if you have keys on your instrument, you can do this. So what I listed, this is, if you're looking at my worksheet, it's number 10 on the worksheet, which is called Grace Notes. And this one's quick and easy. And I'll show you, hopefully you can see it on the screen here. But this is something that we get a lot of questions about as staff members. And that's, we always see you guys adding in all these extra notes. What are you doing? How do you know what notes to add in? I know that's not written in Marianne. I know you're not playing that off the book, right? So let's take a really simple tune. Let's take, well, hey, why not Marianne? I just taught that in our conductor magic class, so I got that fresh in my mind here. So I'm going to put on a guitar sound, okay, like a Spanish guitar. Now, if I'm playing just the melody of Marianne, okay, it sounds fine, but it's not particularly exciting. If I add in what we call grace notes, it looks more like this. So those little extra notes, like that, it's very easy to do. All you have to do is whatever the next note is. So if I'm going and I want to do it on the next note, E, I just slide off from the note that's right below E, E flat. So I'm exaggerating a little bit. You want to kind of do it pretty quick to make it sound good. So it should be a really quick little, just kind of rolling off one note to the next. And you can do it on any note that you want. I would tend to use the example that it's kind of like cooking, and that if you picture your grace notes as like one of your spices for cooking, you don't want to do it too much or it's going to ruin dinner. But it's nice to have in there. It's nice to have at your disposal to use sometimes when you think it'll sound good. So that's one way to use grace notes, is just by going from one note to the next. And it could be any song, right? It could be a fast song, you know. You know, it could be any song works for that, any genre of music, and it's really up to you just how you want to use it. And so you can roll off. Typically, it's best to do it on a white key so that you're going from the black key just below it. Right? And it makes it just sound a little bit cooler. It's adding in those extra notes to kind of spice up your arrangement a little bit. And then another way you can do this, and I'm just going to lump this in with grace notes. It's a little bit different, but what you can do is if you're starting on a white key here, it's the easiest way to do it. You go up to the next white key. So, for example, we'll take another just real simple tune. Hear that? All right. So when you're playing a song, instead of doing a grace note like that, you can do a little, and all I'm doing is going up to the next white key and then back to the next white key. All right. So again, it's the same way with the other type of grace note. You can use it whenever you want. I wouldn't overuse it. I mean, I'm using it more in a short, span of notes than I normally would, just to show you guys what it sounds like. But whenever you feel so moved, if you're one of those people that thinks, man, I see these guys play, and I know they're adding in extra notes, but what are they doing? The notes aren't on the page. Well, that's what we're doing a lot of the times, right? We're just adding in a quick, and again, more grace notes than I would normally use in that short of a time span. But it's very easy to do, and anybody can do it. You can have any instrument, and you can make your arrangement sound pretty cool, and there's really no right or wrong way to do it. It's just a matter of getting those right-hand fingers kind of trained to do that type of thing. And, of course, if you're feeling more ambitious, or if you're a more advanced player, you can add in extra notes that go way beyond just like that or like that. And, we're not going to get into that today, but if you're somebody who likes to experiment, you can certainly play around with adding in extra notes far beyond just those two examples that I showed. Okay? Any questions on how to do that? I don't see any hands up. I figured that might be a pretty easy one that everybody could grab onto. But even if you think it's easy, try it. Make sure you're actually trying it in your music, because you might think, well, that looks really easy. I'm sure I could do that. When you go to do it, it might be a little bit more challenging than you think. Okay, so I would definitely encourage you to try it out. All right. The next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to go up one here to number 9 on my list, which is harmonies. Harmonies. Now, harmonies are one of the, I would say, next to the easy button, maybe one of the best features on the instruments. And if you have an instrument that is an easy 2 or above, or in the SD line, if you have the Freedom 3, you have harmonies. The Easy 2 has the duet harmony. The Easy 4 is going to have 4 different types of harmony, and up and up and up and up until you get to these instruments where you have more than a dozen different harmony choices. Now, again, this harmony topic could be a workshop in itself, and actually our store manager here, Jason, did a great harmony workshop where he talked about each individual one. So I don't have enough time to do all that today, but I want to make sure everybody knows what the harmony feature does. That's the important part. The easy button adds extra notes for your left hand, right? I hope everybody knows that. The easy button, and specifically the MCS, music chord system, is what adds those extra notes for your left hand. So in other words, when I touch one note, like a C chord, I get a full sounding C chord or an F chord with one note, G chord with one note, and it even plays the pedal for me. So what it's actually doing is it's playing 3 notes, right, when I touch one. Now harmony does that same thing, but for your right hand notes. So if you were to play, we were on Ode to Joy, that's kind of a nice one. Without harmony, if I play one note, I get one note. If I turn on harmony, like if I turn on, for example, AOC harmony, that's just one of the types of harmony, listen to the difference. All right, without harmony, with harmony. Whoa. Huge difference. And I'm not doing any extra work. Now, learning how to actually play those notes, if I was doing... I could do that, but it cost me tens of thousands of dollars in 4 years of my life in music school to learn how to do that. You guys, nearly everybody has this feature on their instrument, and you don't have to do anything except just touch the button. All right? Now, if you have an instrument that has duet harmony, you're going to get 2 notes. So you play one note, the instrument adds in an extra note. Something like AOC or 3-part harmony is going to add in an extra 2 notes. So you play one, it adds in an extra 2 for a total of 3. Okay? There are certain big ones like block harmony. That's one of my favorites. Now check this out. I have to play just a little bit of one song using this block harmony. Now block uses a total of 5 notes. So you play one note and the instrument plugs in an extra 4 notes for you. Check this out. I gotta stop before I get carried away. I could be playing the whole song here. But what you noticed, it had block harmony on the upper keyboard and on the lower. So the upper keyboard, for anybody that recognized that sound, was the Ray Anthony Brass Orchestra. Bottom keyboard was what they call a block piano. In other words, you're getting 5 notes on the piano just by playing one. Up here, you're playing one note, you're getting 5 of Ray's orchestra playing with you. So depending on what size instrument you have, you're going to have all these different harmony options. The good news is it comes on when it should. The harmony will come on automatically. I didn't have to set that up. And if you find a setup or a preset that you want to use that doesn't have harmony, all you have to do is just turn it on. So what I would encourage you to do as your, quote unquote homework assignment here is to go to your instrument after class, find out what harmony options you have available. You might have 1, you might have 4, you might have 15. You know, it just depends on what instrument you have. Many of the 2 keyboard instruments of the larger size instruments will have harmony on the lower keyboard. That's why I showed you that piano there. So see if you have harmony on both keyboards and see what harmony options you have available. Okay. Anybody have any questions on the harmony stuff? I don't see any questions. Do you see anybody's hand raised there, Sean? I don't see anybody. Okay. Well, if any questions come up, we got one more topic to cover. And this is another one of my favorites. This is another one that's on many, many instruments. The vast majority is the transpose feature. Now, the transpose is really cool. Okay. The transpose, you may have heard like Joe Fontesha talk about this before. And one of the things that he's mentioned is that if you were a piano player and you were going to, let's say, accompany some singers, or you're going to like a music theater type thing where you had to play for tryouts, you'd just get a piece of music, and then let's say it was in the key of C, right? And if you don't know what that means, that's okay, but it's kind of like the easy play key that you see most of the time. They give you a piece of music, and the singer comes up and says, well, here's my song. It's in the key of C, and I'm going to do Someone to Watch Over Me, and I'd like to do it in the key of E. And you say, oh, okay. And hopefully you know how to transpose on the spot, because on the piano, there's no transpose button. Okay? So what the transpose button on your instrument is going to do is it actually puts that music in a different key, and you play the same notes. You play your same easy play stuff, and you can change the sound of that song. So let me show you an example. And while I'm pulling up my other camera here, I always use Joni's term because I think that's the best way to describe it, is the transpose is like a musical lift. It literally lifts the key up to a different pitch. Okay? Now, where the transpose is going to depend on your instrument. On the Legend, it happens to be right here. On some instruments, it's going to be in all over the place. It's going to be in different spots. But when you find it, it'll either be over here. Some instruments, it's a little bit over here. Some you might actually have to go into the screen, like the Easy 4 and the Easy 10. You're going to have to go into your screen. So you touch Feature, and you go to Transpose. And beyond that, if you have a fanfare or above, you are going to have the transpose buttons on the panel somewhere. Okay, so transpose, there are 2 different ways you can do this. One is by transposing before you start the song. So if you happen to be a singer, or you know somebody who sings and they say, well, can you put it in this key? And then you can just use that to put it in their key. That's pretty rare, though. What you might see is in your book, it might say transpose down to B flat, meaning you would touch your transpose button down to the left twice, and it'll say B flat on the screen. And what that does is it changes the pitch so that it sounds more realistic. So if I was playing a song like, let's do like Moonlight Serenade, okay? So if I was playing Moonlight Serenade and I played it like this in the key that, that most people play it in, if I wanted to sound a little bit lower, I could touch my transpose button down a couple times. Now listen to the difference. Same notes. Anyway, to my ear, that sounds a lot more pleasant. And so everyone's ears are going to be different, but you can use that transpose. If you think that, you know, going down an octave or going up an octave is going to be too extreme, you can start your song off and just hit the transpose key. Either way, if it sounds too low, maybe you click transpose up a couple times. If you think it sounds too high, maybe you click transpose down a couple of times. And there's no science to it. It's just wherever it sounds right to you. Okay. The other way to do it, this is the musical lift part. Okay. Typically, this would be done towards the end of the song. I usually like to show "Over the Rainbow" as an example because I had liked that song. But when you get towards the end of the song, usually for the last A section, if that means something to you, the last A section is a great time to transpose. And what you'll hear is it gives this musical lift to the song. So check this out. So did everybody hear that lift right there, right before I changed to the next section? I tried to exaggerate it a little bit so you could actually see what I was doing. But that little musical lift, all you do is you touch that transpose up to the right, and it's like, it's wow! It just pleases the ears to go to that last section, having taken it up a little bit. It really adds that extra oomph to the arrangement. And before I wrap up, I couldn't possibly talk about transpose without my favorite organ joke. Okay, so you guys have to bear with me because I have the microphone. And this is something that anybody with the transpose button can do. Okay, if you've always wanted to play Phantom of the Opera and you think, man, that is just way beyond me, I just can't do it, all you have to do is make sure you have your transpose ready so you know where it is. You put on a big organ sound, a big, kind of pipe organ, play any minor chord. So I'm going to touch an A minor chord, but it could be anything. And then watch what I do with the transpose. And I can play Phantom of the Opera without touching the keys. So thank you for the ruckus applause that I'm sure is coming. I always like to show that one, though. So that's a little transpose trick you can use to play the beginning of Phantom of the Opera. So let's see. We talked about the expression pedal. We talked about our sound effects. We talked about grace notes. We talked about harmonies, and we just talked about transpose. So before our announcements today, does anybody have any questions on anything that we talked about today? Nobody has any questions today, huh? You guys are quiet. Oh, Stan's got a question there. Let me unmute you, Stan. I think you'll have to click unmute too. We can't hear you, Stan. Make sure you click unmute on yours.
Got it?
There you go. Hi, Stan. We can hear you.
Okay. Going back to harmonies, is what determines in a song which harmony you want to use in that song?
You determine it. So actually, I should say by default, the organ will determine it. So the organ will put on some harmony or no harmony, depending on what setup you're using. But you ultimately think, well, I'll use myself as an example. I love duet harmony for some of the stuff when I want just a little bit extra. And I love block harmony for when I'm doing something real big, like a big ending piece or something jazzy. But, the instrument will set stuff up. Typically on presets 9 and 10, if you have a larger instrument, we'll come on with harmony. But ultimately, it's you. It's I would encourage you all to go through and just see which, if you go through and you're thinking, well, I have polka harmony and 5-part harmony and grouped AOC harmony and full AOC harmony and hymn harmony, and you're thinking, well, what do all these things do? Doesn't matter necessarily that you know what they all do or what extra notes they add in. It matters what sounds good to you. So if you think, I really love hymn harmony, but I want to use it on a classical piece. That's
Okay,
up to you.
so you really want to try them out, and you pick the one you like.
Absolutely, that's a good
Okay.
way to put it.
Yep. Okay.
Great question, though. Thank you, Stan.
Thank you.
Looks like Judith, you have a question?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Oh, good. Harmony. Yesterday, I was playing and using some solo instrument sounds, and nothing changed when I put the harmony on.
Yes, that is correct. What instrument are you on, by the way?
A journey.
A Journey. So, on solo instrument sounds. So if you're on an instrument that differentiates between the solo and the orchestral sounds, which is going to be any of the kind of medium to upper sized instruments, the solo sounds will not have harmony. Even on the largest instruments, it's the same thing. And it's a little confusing because some of them have the same sounds. Like you might be able to get an orchestral sound that's violin, but you might also be able to get a solo sound that's violin. The orchestral sound will have the ability to do harmony. The solo sound will not.
Okay.
So no matter what instrument you have.
Okay. That was my question.
All righty. It's a good question. That confused me when I first started, that's for sure. All right. Jan, how you doing?
I'm good. How
Our
are
Sun
you?
City students.
If you real quick go over again the difference, I know this wasn't this week's, but the last time you did about start, stop, and auto start, stop, what the difference is.
Yeah, sure. So one of the topics we covered last week was the difference in how to use our start stop or auto start stop. The difference, and by the way, you can get this by going to page 9, and I usually like to put it in the pedals. And again, if this is sounding like very confusing to anybody, make sure you contact your local staff because they'll know how to explain this in more in depth to you. Okay, but the start stop, when you have a style going, do that. So when I have a style going on a regular start stop, and I touch the pedals, what's going to happen is it's going to stop the style. When I touch it again, if I touch a chord rather, it's not going to restart the style automatically. It's going to. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm realizing you guys can't see my thing here. So when I'm on regular start stop and I have a style going, okay, and I touch the pedal, it's going to stop the style. If I touch a chord again, it does not restart the style automatically. I have to then touch the pedal again to restart it. If I go to auto start stop, right, I have my style going. When I touch the pedal, it still stops it, but then when I touch the chord, it automatically starts the style again without me having to touch that pedal. So it's not necessarily that one's like easier than the other or better or anything like that. It's just about how do you want to use it in the context of the song that you're doing. Like if you want, like I always think like is there a song where I might want like the middle part with just the chords and without the style? If that's the case, I would do start stop. If I just want like a quick break, to do a couple of extra notes or something, then I would do auto start stop.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else have any questions? All righty. Well, let me wrap up with a couple of announcements here for you. We got some really fun stuff. So one of the things is you should expect an email fairly soon from Robert announcing some product feature workshops. And what that means is that you should, first of all, know what instrument you have. Okay, I know that sounds kind of tongue-in-cheek, but there are some people who don't know I have an SU 500, or I have an EY 300, or I have an A 4000. That's what I'm on today. The reason that you want to know that is because when you see A series workshop or A4000 workshop or EY300 workshop. You want to make sure that you know that I have that instrument. I want to get on that. Robert, I heard you might have just gotten on. Do you want to add anything to that?
Nope, I'm on. I'm waiting
Okay.
for the next thing. I'm going to screen share.
Okay. So it's very important that you know what instrument you have, not just I have a Legend. That's not what I mean. I mean that you know that the Legend is an A4000. Because when Robert sends out these emails, you want to make sure that you're on the right class, because these product feature workshops are going to be on your line of instruments. And so you want to make sure.
And the email, Brian, will have the organs listed in it.
Okay.
Okay. So, and just FYI, in case people want to know, starting next week, we're going to do the EX series, which is Aria, Grand Marquis, Marquis, and then we encourage Rialto and Inspire owners to attend that because there are some similarities. And then the following week, the week of the 13th, 14th, we're going to have one each day, one Monday, one Tuesday, so forth. So you'll get this email in advance with all the information. And then just take a look. I'll list all the models that's in all of those. The one thing that I will say, and I know I've said this a few times, is if you see something and it says a certain series and it says such and such series are encouraged to attend, it's because there's a lot of similarities. So it gives you an opportunity to take 2 in a month that you're going to learn from. So if we do an SU series with certain models, A series owners can attend and learn. If you do an A series, we encourage SU series to attend. It's because there's a lot of similarities. So you can have an opportunity of attending 2 classes that you can benefit from. It just means that we'll make sure that we're on an A series model when we teach the class and vice versa. So you'll see an email coming out very soon in the next couple of days that's going to list all of the workshops for the month. And then what happens as we get close to that date, I'll send out the links accordingly. The website is still in work in progress. We're fine tuning it right now. There's some things that got a little complex, and what we're doing is we're making it so that when you go on, it's as easy as possible. So I'll just keep you in the loop on that. In the meantime, I'm going to still be emailing all of the appropriate links. What else you got, Brian?
All right. Well, this is the one I was really excited to announce. This Friday, y'all know hopefully by now that we do our weekly Zoom musicals every Friday at 2 o'clock. Now, what we've done in the past is featured one of our staff members as a concert artist. Like I've done it. Jason has done it. You had Joe Fontesha one week. You had some folks from Arizona. You guys have been treated to some really, really great music over the last couple of months, and hopefully you've enjoyed it as much as we have as staff members, either watching or doing it ourselves. But if it's possible to step it up from there, it'll be this Friday. And I'll tell you why. We are going to have our regular time. It's going to be this Friday, which is July 3rd at 2 o'clock. And that's 2 o'clock Florida time, I should clarify, 11 o'clock Arizona time. We are going to feature 4 organs and 4 artists. So as you can see there on the screen, I'll be playing on the SD Freedom 3.
What a handsome boy.
Oh. And then
Looking at the
Jason
Freedom
is going to be playing on.
Look
Say
at
again?
him. He's looking at
I know.
me.
I'm looking right at it.
That's me. I'm doing that model. Darn
Got
it.
my eyes on it. And then you got Jason, our very own Sun City Center. Jason Bontrager is going to be performing on the Lowry Journey. We got, hopefully you all know him at this point. He's been our trusty host and co-host and concert artist extraordinaire from Arizona. Sean Maloney will be on the Lowry Inspire. And then everybody knows this guy, your friend and mine, Joe Fontesha, on the Lowry Legend, which is what I was playing on for you today. And so, again, that's going to be this Friday, 11 o'clock Arizona time, 2 o'clock Florida time. And the theme is A Tribute to America, of course, for our holiday weekend. So it's going to be a Tribute to America Zoom musical, 4 organs, 4 artists, 2 states. It's going to be incredible. So make sure you come to that. And not only you, but I want to encourage everybody to forward the email that Robert sends you, or you may have already gotten it. Forward that email to a friend, because all they have to do is the same thing you do. Just click on the link and they can enjoy a nice patriotic concert. And around this time right now, we're coming up to a patriotic holiday. Everybody should enjoy hearing patriotic music. And so I ask you that if you can, if you know somebody's email, or somebody's email, as many people as you like to invite, just all you have to do is forward that link to them, and let's really get a lot of people on our concert here. Okay. And then as you can see on the bottom there, you can also click to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can also follow us on our Facebook page. So those links are always in the bottom of Robert's emails. You can join the mailing list. All of the stuff is there. And in case you miss anything, that YouTube link is a really great, it's a great resource for all of the classes, all of the concerts. Everything that we've done in the past couple of months is on there. Okay. We got a question from Rita that says, how many people does Zoom hold? Right now we have the capability of having 500 people on one single Zoom session. We got, I think last week was a record for us. We got just over 200. Oh, and Robert's pointing to that. Yeah, there's, look at that. It's even easier than I thought. It says forward this email to a friend and have them join the mailing list. So that's very easy to do. Okay, so I ask you guys that you do that because right now, in this time when we have very few people relatively coming into the actual physical locations of the stores, we've been really active online, and that's because of you guys. You guys have been really actively participating in our stuff. And if you could share that with a friend, we would really, really appreciate that, because that helps us out, obviously. But then you get to, bring somebody into the Fletcher world and show them what we do here and all of the fun that we have, all of our good music and whatnot. So, Robert, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think I'm good. Someone's putting hearts around your face now.
I know. I figured that was Sean, but.
Gotta have a little fun, I guess, once in a while.
We do. We have a lot of fun.
No, that's all I have. We'll see you Friday. Keep an eye out for the emails, and stay tuned in some really great things. We hope you enjoyed the class. I have a copy of that handout that you had originally, so I'll send that out again this weekend when I send out the usual materials.
Okay.
And that's it.
All righty. Thank you so much for joining us today, everybody.
A final song before you go?
Oh, sure. Why not?
Yeah.
We'll do one more tune here.
You change your view?
I want to watch the back of his head. great.
All righty. Thank you so much again for joining us, guys.
Let's give him a big round of applause, everybody. Let's hear it. Woo-hoo! Brian, you're the best.
Oh, gosh. I don't know about that.
Love you, Brian.
Y'all have the ability to unmute yourselves if you want to say anything on our way out. But
Brian, out of all of the people I know, you are, out of all of the Brians I know, you're one of them.
I thought you were going to say out of all the people I know, you have performed the most recently. All right. Thanks again, everybody. It really was a pleasure. And remember to come on Friday. Friday's our big show. So Friday, 2 o'clock, 2 o'clock Florida time, 11 o'clock Arizona time. And tell a friend. And we'll see you then. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.